the heart and soul behind every business. Stories. Welcome to Business Story of the Week, hosted by me, Joshua Laurie. From setbacks to comebacks, from tragedies to triumphs, we inspire entrepreneurs through conversations that matter. Witness the magic that turns dreams into reality. Whether it's your career, business, or life, your success is always one story away. This is Business Story of the Week.
Hello, this is Cynthia B, and welcome to Business Story of the Week.
Fantastic. And that is the lovely Cynthia B. She's our guest for today. And of course, I am Joshua, your host, every day, every week, every episode. We start off with a riveting question. And today the question is, how do you turn a desert into a garden that saves more than just water? Okay, I love that question because Cynthia is the perfect guest to answer that question. Cynthia B is a sustainable landscaping expert specializing in the Intermountain West with a degree in landscape architecture and environmental planning from Utah State University. Cynthia has spearheaded initiatives like LocalScapes, helping Utah's landscape adapt to its climate. As a communications and outreach manager for Utah Waterways, she translates complex sustainability challenges into actionable steps, promoting water-wise landscape for water-scarce future. I love that. She's also a TEDx speaker and award-winning public educator, and today Cynthia is going to be joining us, giving us some guidance, talking about an insight into a water-scarce future or a water-abundant future, hopefully. Cynthia, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. Wow, that's quite an introduction.
Well, I'm quite excited about this one. I mean, Cynthia, we're talking about water, we're going to talk about the desert, we're talking about gardens, we're talking about scarcity, we're talking about abundance. But Cynthia, before we get deep into it, what was the young Cynthia like? Was she always about environment? Was she always about water? What would the young Cynthia say to the Cynthia of today?
Yeah, in the fourth grade, I found out that people who draw houses are called architects. And
Okay.
I have been interested in design for my entire life.
Well,
My senior year of high school, I applied. I was just trying to get into college, and I only got to go to college because I got a scholarship. And I found out that there was this thing called landscape architecture, and I had planned to be an architect, but I'm terrible at math. So I thought, well, I'll check into this and see if I like plants. And it turns out that not only did I like plants, I learned that I had a deep family history. Well, I knew my grandfather was a farmer, but my great grandfather was a florist. And so it goes way back in the generations for me. And I went off to Utah State and never looked back. I mean, all 4 years didn't change my mind.
wow.
And and then
The,
just got
the
started.
rest is history, basically, or rather, the rest is like present now because you've brought that passion, and that passion feels like it never died down, and you've brought that to different stages in your life and different stages in your career to now bringing the architecture, your love for architecture and your love for environment, combining that together. How do you balance that, so to speak? How do you balance the artistry of landscape architecture with the science of water conservation?
I am so lucky because after I did my stay-at-home mom hiatus, I went back to work for a water district.
Yes.
And there I got to work with a team of experts from kind of every part of the green industry. And that doesn't always happen. If you're a landscape architect, you don't often work with landscape maintenance folks.
Yes.
And our agency, we had all of these people. We had people with experience in construction and all aspects of that. And because we had this multifunctional team, together we were able to kind of create a synergy and a movement that really reflected the full breadth of everything. That's kind of what was missing. So, in Utah, and still, we're just at the very beginning stages of conservation being cool. So I've been at this since long before it was cool. Like, we couldn't get anyone to come to classes, and everyone was just convinced that, it was either a full green lawn or cactus and lava rock. And so through the collaborative work of this team and teams across the state, really, we reached out and we said, look, if we're all providing the same information and saying the same things, this is how we get people onboarded. And so that team is still doing great stuff. And I've been able to kind of move up a step and organize at a little higher level now through my work at Utah Waterways. And it's kind of interesting because in 2023, our state legislature directed for this organization to be created, which is kind of interesting for state law to direct the creation of a nonprofit.
Or,
But the idea was to kind of create this high level organization whose only job was water conservation. So one of the challenges all my peers face at the water districts is conservation is an important part of their job, but also delivering water to millions of people is the main thing they've got to do every day. And their goal is to balance that supply and demand. But that means that it's hard for them to give it the full attention that's required. And they also have the burden of carrying out all the state funded incentive programs.
wow.
And so that's great. And they're doing that awesome. But that means that other parts of the conversation aren't happening. And we need to be able to draw in more people. If it's really going to succeed, it has to extend far beyond the existing audience. And so part of the reason we were created is so that you can take the bandwagon and make sure it doesn't become a demolition derby. Because if you got too many people driving to the same location in different vehicles, you run the risk. You know, the greatest threat to any social movement is friendly fire.
Yes, I love that. But first of all, I want to highlight how much I feel the passion. By the way, like you're so excited about what you talk about, and that's contagious, right? And especially when you talk about things that are important to you, and things are right now is quite the crisis, right? Like there's quite a crisis going on, and something that we need to address. But people aren't aware. Like first of all, the awareness, and then the education of what to do with it. I understand there's a water crisis in Utah, so to speak, or rather everywhere else in the world, not just Utah. If you can shed a little bit of light on that, if the water crisis was a garden, where would you plant the first seeds of change?
Well, great. Okay, so Utah is the second driest state in the nation. Part of the reason we have as much water as we have is most of our population is just in 11% of our landmass area. And most of the reason that we have as much water as we do have is in part because of Great Salt Lake. You know, the population, great majority of the population of the state all lives within that Great Salt Lake Basin. We do have a couple other populous centers, but the bulk of our population is in this region. And so all of our human activities are having an impact. You've also got just some natural environmental things. The lake itself is very shallow, but it creates kind of that lake effect, and it helps us get more snowpack. And when we get more snowpack, that's more to go to the lake. So as that lake drops and those levels drop, and the surface area drops, it's also reducing the water potential that we would get to help replenish it. And so it can become kind of this downward spiral. And so there's a lot of other factors that go into it, but that's certainly a big one here. And just honestly, using more than we need, right? I mean, we have so many tourists come to Utah to see our beautiful natural landscapes.
Of course.
Every year. We have more land, I think, that's owned by the federal government than I think any other state. Maybe there's one or two. So, I mean, most of our land is held in reserve for these kinds of things. And yet, when you enter our cities, we're kind of like a washed out version of everywhere else.
Right.
And so our goal is to say, what is the most perfect version of nature for our area? What does that look like? And how do we create that? And so we're not saying in northern Utah, we're not saying people can't have any lawns. We're not, we're not trying to be over the top. But at the same time, a lot of it, we just all have more than we need, right? So it's kind of that idea of, yes, a small area for kids to play or whatever, but that back corner that you only visit when you're pushing a lawnmower, you could do something else with that doesn't need the work and water. It would be more efficient. And so one of the things I would want people to know is you don't have to sacrifice a beautiful landscape to be conserving. We're just going to change out some of the materials and some of the plants. And instead of lawn being the only plant you have, we want to create habitat for pollinators. We want to create landscape balance.
Right. And of course, this is the dream, right? Because there's always that argument where like landscape or courtyard or front yard is like a waste of space, it's a waste of water. You know, you want to maximize that. Why not turn it into like what we call this a homestead, right? Like, but that's not always possible for everyone. But you're bringing this as optimism in the sense that, hey, you don't have to waste, but like not all courtyards and front yards or landscapes are going to be a waste of water. There's few ways to do that. But then, of course, one of the arguments or one of the factors that come into that is the dreaded three-letter word, the HOA. You know, not everyone, not everyone is going to agree with that. Like not every HOA is going to agree with a very unique front yard, of course, or a homestead front yard or backyard. How do you navigate this, so to speak? Because there's going to be specifications that you're suggesting, but I feel like those specifications aren't always going to be in line with some of these HOA regulations.
Oh, we're very fortunate that our legislature foresaw that problem where it was brought to
Oh,
their attention early on. So one of the other tools that's been provided in our state is our legislature passed law that HOAs cannot require any amount of lawn.
I see.
Now, so they can't tell. So someone says, I want to change out my lawn for water efficient landscaping. The HOA cannot say no, you have to have lawn. That said,
Okay.
they still have control over standards. So the fact they can't require lawn, but they also can say, but you need to replace it with these trees, this rock, 50% plant coverage. They can make standards about what that efficient landscape looks like to meet beautification for the neighborhood, but they can't say it has to be lawn. And so that's been kind of a challenge. It's really difficult, particularly in HOAs where the property is, kind of joint, that's not individually owned property, where it's like more of like a townhouse development, for example. And maybe the only piece that the individuals own is the backyard, but the rest is in group landscaping. And what we have found over the years, so those are the hardest landscapes to convert. And so our goal right now is to kind of stop the bleeding when it
I
comes to
see.
water. So we have that rule for HOAs, but the other thing that's going on is our legislature has funded and our water districts have matched these funds,
Okay. Okay.
money for turf removal. I shouldn't say
Right.
removal, turf replacement, because we're not just paying people to take out lawn and put in rocks. You have to re-landscape with actual water efficient plants and
Of course.
with that water efficient landscaping. But in order for residents, and it can be up to $3 a square foot, so that can become quite substantial. But in order for residents to be able, with existing yards, to be able to participate, their city has to adopt an ordinance that requires water efficient landscaping on new construction. So only cities can make the rules for new construction or for, how things get built in their city. And so essentially it's a group effort between the district, the legislature, our division of water resources, and the cities themselves to kind of split the problem. So in cities that are willing to adopt those standards for new construction, make new growth bear more of its own water burden. And of course, as you know, Utah's one of the fastest growing states in the country with the best economy. So suddenly we are one of the most expensive places to live, and that's been a tremendous shock to our locals, and that's created a whole new set
Wow.
of problems.
Of
But the
course.
cities are kind of controlling that water on new construction, and then when they adopt those ordinances that limit, say, for example, limit lawn to no more than 35% on single family residential,
Okay. Okay.
no ornamental lawn on commercial, industrial, things like that. Even parks are trying to downscale how much lawn they're using.
Okay.
When they're willing to do that, then those districts and water resources will come in and pay incentives to homeowners with existing landscape
I
that
see.
choose to change it to
Okay.
match the
Okay.
standard.
Basically, basically rewarding it, so to speak, like rewarding encouraging others. It's a way of encouragement, a form of encouragement, like, hey, make these changes. We'll reward you for it. And I think that's a great motivator, I think, for anybody, right? And it puts us in that proper direction, points everyone to that right direction to being more water wise, so to speak. I love that word, by the way, water wise. You talk about on the website, you talk about the importance of public support. And of course, I mean, not just in your website, but everything in your materials and in what you guys talk about. And really, the underlying message in the waterways, Utah waterways, you guys emphasize on the importance of public support and, again, water wise landscape. Talk to us a little bit about the inspiration behind developing the LocalScapes method. What technically is this method, and how has it transformed the way people approach landscaping? And how do you carry that over into today with Utah Waterways?
Yeah, so the local tapes method was developed by the team at Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District. And of course, I'm part of that original team and that
Wow.
methodology. And it was, just telling people to do something without providing them the tools to get there. It's just not going to make it happen. And so, just guilting people about their lawn when you don't show them an alternative that they want. And one of the challenges is there are times when you have to say, do this or don't do that, right? You're either wearing a mask during a pandemic or you're not, and there's not really a go-between there. But in most cases, we have the option of showing people a range of options so that you're not eliminating personal choice. And I think that's a big mistake that often gets made. We go from no rules to strict rules, but we don't show anybody how to get there and we don't make them want the outcome. So, rules are great and we need that, especially on new construction. But if we really want people to change, it's not changing people. That's the mistake that so many folks make. If I change people and get them to value what I value, then they'll come to the same conclusion that I did. But of course, that never works because we all have our own lived experience. And even if we believe the same things, we still may come to a different resolution on it, right? So the key that has made LocalScapes really successful is not just that there's a great team promoting it, but also that we've created just the tools and resources and shown people the right range of options. So for some people, they're ready to go totally lawnless. Other people, they want to keep a portion of lawn. We want to show either of those groups how to succeed with it. And so when it's kind of like with, I hate to say it this way because it sounds kind of trivial, but like with kids, when you say, do you like this outfit, or this outfit?
Okay.
Any of those outfits are fine, right?
Yes,
so it's the same thing here. Where are you at? You tell us what works for your family. Here's the range of acceptable options.
That's it.
You decide where you fit on that range. And when you're not dictating to people and you're trusting them to make the right decisions for their family and you're giving them a way to learn how to do what they need to do and you're providing those tools, people just choose it and you're showing them outcomes they want. Honestly, it's not that hard of a sell because everybody benefits from the environment, right? And so I've just found that, does it matter to me why? Does it matter to me that they picked it because of water conservation versus I want great curb appeal versus I want to improve the privacy in my yard or whatever? Do I care why? No, because when they get a great outcome, they're converted to my reason. But I don't have the power to convert anybody. They get inspired when they see good outcomes that other people have had. So we can show them those great outputs, by other people who are just like them. Once they see that outcome that they want, I can show them how to get it. Our team can show it. All across the state, we have teams that teach this. They can all show them how to get it. We're all marching them in the same direction. We're consistently speaking across all these different entities because this is so confusing. It's not just a simple project. Changing a built landscape that already exists, especially when there's irrigation involved, is a complex, expensive project. And so water conservation alone is not going to be enough of a reason to do it. Even for people who believe in it, it's one thing to believe in it. It's another thing to believe in it $25,000, right? So it takes time and effort. And even once you pay the money, you've got to still maintain it and you have to learn new things. And it's a big ask.
It's a big ask.
And so the more tools that we can create to help with that list, that's kind of what I'm doing with Utah Waterways now is we're looking at what tools are needed that don't exist. This fall, we'll be launching the Utah Plant Selector app, which is basically Tinder for plants. And it makes that process a lot easier for people. Again, they still have choice, but we've constrained those options so they can't fail. And really, instead of having to do all this research and build spreadsheets and get overwhelmed and make mistakes and whatever else, they'll be able to utilize this tool to go through and do I like it is what they have to know.
I love
and
that.
so by reducing that learning curve, the idea that we're just going to educate everybody into these kinds of changes, it does require education. But my goal now my original goal was to simplify. So LocalScapes was a way to simplify that down, and that's what our team worked on. My goal now is to say, what's the least that anybody has to know? What's the fewest things that they have to actively learn, which in our case is irrigation. That's where the water savings happen, and there's no way around that. You have to know how to manage and adjust and do a sprinkler system. But so much of the rest of what they need to do can be managed with tools or taught with tools. And so by decreasing that bandwidth, it's not that people don't care, they aren't interested. It's just this is such a big lift. How can we remove obstacles from the path that are preventing people, even when they want to do it? It's just hard.
Of course. Yeah, exactly. I love that. You're making the process more frictionless, so to speak. You're reducing all that friction. And I love it even more where you say that you give them the option. Because so much so, it's like, if you get people to choose, I don't think anyone wants to choose like, "Oh, I'm gonna waste as much water as I can." I don't think so. The problem is we're not just presented with that option often enough that, hey, these are ways you can conserve water and you still keep a great landscape. It's just that when people are given that power, given that option, we'll always choose the option that helps everyone else and that helps the environment and that meets, it's a win-win situation. I love that. Making the process frictionless, making giving the option to the people and allowing them to, halfway, but also in a exchange that makes it a win for everybody. When it comes to water efficiency standards now, it's being codified statewide. Hopefully the standards is being set everywhere else. Not just in Utah. How do you see the next step when it comes to landscape future everywhere else, not just in Utah? What would be the next step be in pushing Utah towards a sustainable landscape future? And where does that role and how do you see your role in playing a future for everywhere else in the state, other states, so to speak?
Sure. Well, I have been invited to speak at a few other states, so I know there's
Wow.
interest well
All
beyond
right.
Utah.
Awesome.
But really, I think the most important thing is we can't just tell people do this, don't do that. Everyone benefits from a safe, reliable water supply. And if you've ever had the water turned off at your house for any unexpected reason, there's pretty much nothing else you care about when you don't have that, right? So one of the keys is we're not going to divide this on political ideology lines. This is not a purist test. The only people who think like me, you know, are part of this movement, and we're just, no. Everybody has their reasons, and it's not my place to judge what brings them to it. It's my job to make them want it and show them how to get it. And so not making these kinds of, we cannot make the
I love
environment a
it.
purity test.
Of
We
course.
all benefit from a clean environment. We all just have a different opinion about the best way to go about it.
I
And
love that.
so let's not treat each other adversarially. Let's just look for solutions and find those things. So I always say that you meet people where they are, and then you bring them along the path. So you just show them how the goals that we're trying to do here, it already matches your values. Whatever that is. Like, I mean, who doesn't benefit from clean, safe water supply, right? Who doesn't want animals in the environment and fish and all of those to have sufficient water supply? We all want those things. We just disagree about how to balance them. So understanding and coming at it with good faith and with positivity is really important. And then we can start working on those other pieces because we all want the same outcome. It's just we differ in how to get there. So let's find a way for everyone to get there that meets them where they are.
And I love how you also say that it's not a tall ask. It's not a hard sell. The way when you talk about it in that way that you give people the option, you get them to meet those standards. You give them that option. It's not a hard sell. People would want it, and I love, of course, that there's leaders like you, voices like you are, who are pushing that standard, so to speak, to be more water wise. I love it, but also there's passion in there. I love it. I can hear the passion in their voice, Cynthia. The enthusiasm in there. Of course, it's contagious, and people will feel that. I love it. I love that you're in this space, and it is a great opportunity that we got to talk about this here today on the platform. And of course, for our audience and listeners out there who would love to learn more, Cynthia, of course, the website is utahwaterways.org. Cynthia, where else can we learn more? Where else can we connect with you?
If they want to learn how to create a sustainable landscape, the new team for LocalScapes is still keeping all the lights on and they're going full speed. So you can go to localscapes.com. There's lots of free resources there that help you know where to start and what to do to create your ideal yard. And again, those classes, we've had more than 30,000 people take the classes and they're free.
Wow, fantastic. So everything is free on there. Ladies and gentlemen, go check out utahwaterways.org if this is something that excites you. As much as it excites Cynthia, of course, if it resonates with you, go check out that website. Go check out, get yourself educated, get yourself exposed, especially if you have friends and families and listeners and anyone out there who you feel like this might help with. Go check out utahwaterways.org. And of course, go find Cynthia, go connect with her, and let's thank you, Cynthia, for coming onto the show.
Thank you. It's been great.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
It's been great. I mean, I loved it. I enjoyed it. To all our audience and listeners out there, I hope you guys enjoyed this one as well. Thank you for watching the episode, and here's to a water-wise future. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
All right, so here's the thing. We try to get a little bit better every day, but we can't do it without you. So if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe below. And if you have any comments, just leave them in the space under.